hour. Peace. I'm gonna say it. We live in New York. I'm in the building with brother Emmanuel. I'm in here with the Queen sister, Shanoa. Peace to my brother's Prime. Peace to brother Marvin, to Cal. You know what I'm saying? Dien, KTS, everybody in Toronto, all the priorities, you know what I'm saying? Keep your head up, you know. So today, the topic at hand, what we're going to discuss is we're going to go more into metaphysics. So we're going to speak about Moor Metaphysics, and the more that we're speaking about, of course, is the M-O-O-R. So with that, first, let's set the stage for what is metaphysics. Metaphysics is the science of studying that which is beyond the physical realm. It's a term connected to a term which is associated with the operative aspect of watching the physical dynamic of how the laws of matter coexist with one another. When they add the meta to it, it takes us beyond those laws. So now metaphysics is a science that essentially has to be expressed in a language that transcends the language of law, the language of the physical and or mundane world. So the language of metaphysics has to funnel and be threaded through the language of myth. Mythology is the language of metaphysics. Mythology describes the phenomenon which governs the physical world, or how the physical world, the dynamics of the physical world coexist and are manifested. Now, very important that the language of myth is the very foundation for all of the world's religions. Every religion in existence is predicated and advanced by way of the vehicle of the mythology. Mythology is the real reality, and this what we see and what we participate physically in is actually just an anchor just to allow consciousness to be able to have vesture. The real reality is that the soul is here, occupying the physical world, and doing with it as it may, as it advances to learn itself. What occurs is there's a margin of error where the physical body begins to take on an intelligence of its own, a false intelligence where it begins to think that it is real, when in fact it loses the essence and knowledge of itself, that it is just a vesture to accommodate something far greater. Sure. The far greater reality that it's housed inside the physical body is the spirit. Spirit is that metaphysical reality. So when you look into the myths, biblical myths of the which come from, well, the biblical myths are Ethiopian myths. The Ethiopian myths got to become biblical myths by way of Sumer's travel into, Kushite travel into establishing civilizations in Sumer by the Tigris and Euphrates, bringing with them all the spiritual traditions and all the stories from that region, revamping them, changing the names, but keeping within the same context a strong scientific inclination towards the stars interaction with the physiological body and their dual effect on the soul's ability to understand who it is. So now, all of the myths that we have from West Africa were transported into, and when I say Western Africa, the Kushite Valley extended all the way from the western coast of Africa all the way to the eastern coast of Africa. They all encompass that one great grand reality. Not until the Belgian Conference did we start separating the continent into these little countries and saying I'm a this and I'm a that. That was all Kush. In fact, it even went all the way to India. That was Indus Kush. They had a constant communication. Now, the myths all were the same. They just changed the names based off geographical location and social conditions. Also defined the need for certain myths at certain times. For instance, the messianic message in mythology became even far more significant after the expulsion of the Moors from Spain, because within the Judaic Moorish paradigm, when they were expelled from Spain, millions of them went back home, which was North Africa, Egypt, and all that. They began to start creating and manufacturing a new scope to view the messianic message within the text, to give them a new place of closure for as to why they were being expelled from a place that they helped civilize. And I'm speaking about the Judaic Moors. Now back to Chaldea, the Chaldean oracles sat, channeled many of the ancient crypto-Egyptological information. Because the Egyptological information that we have access to now is this very precursory in retrospect to what they were really getting at. It stands to say the Egyptian, prior to the dynastic Egyptian, were more astral, stellar connected beings. So they began to manufacture an Asiatic history reminiscent of their experience. When that Asiatic history was then transferred over to a new paradigm of people, a predecessor after, they took on, they were now imbued by the mythology imprinted upon them by them before them. So what happens is, some groups get it and some groups don't. It creates a disjunction in every social structure where some people are rooted in the myth, know that this whole reality is rooted in myth, and know what myth is. Then you have a whole other group of people who have now historically taken on the myth. Sure. And this is what's going on with these Caucasians, with this whole reptilian fiction, that Caucasians can be in some way reptilians. Now cipher. A Caucasian don't have the DNA required for him to be anything but what he is. An experiment made by the hands of the black man. He doesn't have the ability to shapeshift into anything but that. That is something that melanin allows you to do psychically. And psychically, you now emboss on the astral realm and now unify the field of consciousness, and the shaman can make another shaman see what he's seeing when they're both in this state of defocalization. So
break down the word defocalization.
Defocalization is a fancy way of saying I got high.
Ah, shit.
You know?
So just to help the young guys.
Right, right. It's a way of saying I smoked some of that thing, and I bended time and space, snapped it in half, so I now can see a broader dynamic.
Oh shit.
Okay, so now back to Chaldea. We got to go back there, because if you're talking about Moors, and we're going into Moor Metaphysics, you got to go back to Chaldea, and you got to reclaim these books. The book is yours. The Bible is yours. Hebrew Tanakh. The book is yours. In the book has your astrology. It has your science of word magic. It has your science of physiological interacting with your body through eating properly, and it also speaks about law. Now, however, it's written in 4 different places because each message exists in 4 different worlds. So we see similarities Kabbalistically. You have to look at anything Chaldean or Judaic through the greatest book on Kabbalah, the greatest book ever composed on Kabbalah ever is the Bible, the Torah, the Tanakh, all of the books. Each part reflects and cross-references and checks the other. Every single letter in the whole book is a word. The people who wrote these stories, which now have become your commercial law, which has now become Uniform Commercial Code law, is rooted in Talmud and rooted in Torah, rooted in Judaic law, rooted in Chaldean, rooted in Sumerian, rooted in Cushite, Egyptian law. How to man manage, how to deal with one another. You know what I'm saying? How to coexist, how to interrelate, how to be affected positively by the celestial influences. How to get on the portals, how to go up and out of this existence. The whole story about the prophet Elijah and all of them.